Welcome to the Foundations of the IEP training series. This recording is part of a series of videos on IEP compliance. To begin a discussion about progress monitoring, we first need to clarify the difference between progress reporting and progress monitoring. Progress reporting is done at a minimum every 9 weeks with report cards. Progress monitoring is assessment done weekly or biweekly at the student's instructional level on students' IEP goals. This is done to determine if the interventions and instruction the teacher is using are effective. If the teacher is not seeing a change, the teacher needs to modify their instruction. The Federal Office of Special Education Programs has had this to say about progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is a scientifically based practice that is used to assess students' academic and functional performance and evaluate the effectiveness of instruction. According to the National Center on Student Progress monitoring has the following benefits when it is implemented correctly. First, students learn more quickly because they are receiving more appropriate instruction. Second, teachers make more informed instructional decisions. Third, documentation of student progress is available for accountability purposes. Fourth, communication improves between families and professionals about student progress. And finally, teachers have higher expectations for their students. Measure a student's progress towards his or her goal is a formative evaluation. Formative assessment includes diagnostic testing and is a range of formal and informal assessment procedures conducted by teachers during the learning process in order to modify teaching and learning activities to improve student attainment. Formative assessment includes a variety of procedures such as observation, feedback, and journaling. However, there are some general principles that constitute effective formal assessment. Key requirements for successful formative assessment include the use of quality assessment tools and the subsequent use of the information derived from these assessments to improve instruction. Report a student's progress to his or her parents. Have a specific reporting schedule. Revising the special education program if the student is not making progress is completely necessary. Formative assessment may also be evaluated at the classroom level to inform the teaching practices of the teacher because it reveals how much the students may be retaining or how much difficulty they may be experiencing. When a student is having difficulty, then perhaps more general change in instruction is needed. Curriculum-based measures in particular serves these dual roles to inform teaching and determine student progress. And you have to continue to monitor progress and adjust as needed. The steps to progress monitoring are as follows. Use the student's current level of academic achievement and functional performance. Then annual goals are identified that represent meaningful growth over an academic year. Then the student's academic or functional performance is measured on a regular basis, weekly or monthly. Progress towards meeting the student's goals is measured by comparing expected and actual rates of learning. And then finally, based on these measurements, teaching is adjusted as needed. Court cases have taught us some important things about teacher observation. What it tells us is, although subjective teacher observation provides valuable information, teacher observation is not an adequate method of monitoring student progress. Without supporting data, teacher observation is opinion which cannot be verified. The moral of the story is teacher observation cannot be the primary method of data collection for progress monitoring. Please remember, data are number and not words. In order to examine data, there are some questions you should be asking. Now that I'm collecting the data, what do I do? If you use the probes and enrich, the data will be plotted for you. You will be able to make a visual assessment of the progress. And is the data moving in the right direction? Is my student progressing at an acceptable rate? If there is growth, is there enough growth to close the gap and reach the goal? Do I need to change instruction? If you have said no to any of the above questions, you need to alter your instruction and collect more data. Is the instructional change that was made effective? Once you have made a change and collected more data, you need to start over with all of the above questions. Then finally, if they're doing well, should you raise the student's goal? And if you have found that there is progress and your instruction is working, do you need to make things harder? Here's an example from Enrich when you use probes. You can see here how you can do a visual analysis of the data. The goal line is also called the aim line. The data is all above the aim line. So you need to ask yourself, is my student progressing at an acceptable rate? All of the points are above the goal line, so yes, they are progressing. Do I need to change instruction? Since they are progressing at above the expected rate, no change to instruction is necessary. Should I raise the student's goal? If you gather more data points above the goal line, the team should consider raising the goal. Here is another example of visual analysis using the probes and enrich. So looking at this graph, is my student progressing at an acceptable rate? As you can see in this example, there are at least 4 consecutive data points below the goal line. So no, this student is not progressing at an acceptable rate. Do I need to change instruction? This is a situation where the teacher needs to change instruction. Is the instructional change that was made effective? The teacher will need to change instruction and collect more data to determine if their changes were effective. This chart is a visual representation of how to make decisions during visual analysis of data. This is a compilation of what we just went through. Essentially, if there are 3 consecutive data points below the goal line, you need to change instruction. If there are 4 consecutive data points above the goal line, you need to raise the goal. There are some considerations regarding progress monitoring. You can think of this like a checklist. Was the student's progress towards each of his or her goals measured at least as often as the students in general education get report cards? Was the student's progress towards the goals reported to his or her parents at least as often as the students in general education get report cards? Was the method of monitoring progress and the schedule for reporting the student's progress to his or her parents included in the IEP? If the data show that the student may not meet his or her goals, were needed instructional changes made to monitor the student's program, and did the teacher continue to monitor the progress? As the cook or teacher, we need to stop and taste the soup before we move forward with instruction. We need to design instruction so students can press the reset button and go back and learn what they missed the first time. We can use many techniques to assess a student achievement and understanding. If you wait until the end of the year to monitor progress, you've run out of time to change instruction. Collecting progress monitoring data drives and guides instruction. That sums up our presentation on progress monitoring. For more information on IEP and IEP compliance in the South Carolina Public Charter School District, please view our Foundations of the IEP training series that includes meeting notices, present levels, findings, annual goals, services, transition, and prior written notice.